Hello everybody, this is Coach Raza here. In this video we will go ahead and discuss how to go ahead and solve for ratios and also how to use proportions to identify similar polygons and also solve problems using the properties of similar polygons. Now if you are currently here, we have to go ahead and go back to what a ratio is. And once you understand what a ratio is, then it's a little bit easier to go and build. Ideally it's like you have two quantities that you're comparing, kind of like apples to oranges, boys to girls, or Android phones to iPhones. So in this case, the hardware store currently has a stock of 310 wrenches and 558 screwdrivers. What is the ratio of wrenches to screwdrivers? So let's go and look at our comparison. So here we're comparing wrenches to screwdrivers. Now, when you go ahead and do that, here's your wrenches, here's your screwdrivers. We're going to go ahead and put our values in there. So the way that we do it is that you put a semicolon, 310, 558, and you can go ahead and have them as a semicolon, or you can go ahead and have them as a fraction. So 310 over 558. So that's the same thing, wrenches to screwdrivers. So when you type it into the calculator, or whichever fraction you come up, it should come out as a fraction. And when you simplify it, it comes out to 5 over 9. Okay? Simplify. Okay? So this here will be your ratio. So what does this mean? So that means that you have 5 wrenches to every 9 screwdrivers. Okay? So this is what we have that's going on. Okay? So that's one of your examples. Okay, so sometimes after you go ahead and understand what a ratio is, you can go ahead and set it up in a proportion. So one of the biggest things is that, let's say a food truck, right? So we did number 1, we did number 2, number 1 and number 3, I mean. A food truck sells 5 hamburgers for every 3 sodas. So in this case, I have hamburgers to sodas. If 513 sodas are sold, how many hamburgers are sold? So let's look at this. So now I'm going to go ahead and have 5. So every 3 of my sodas, so that means hamburgers. To sodas, and that's going to go ahead and be equal to 513. Now, ideally, here's my sodas. This is the sodas that the second quantity I have. So I'm going to put it right here. So these first two come right there. And when I have these, as I go ahead and set these up, I'm going to determine which ones, how many hamburgers are sold. So this is going to be my X, because X is what you're always looking for. And so just make sure that you are aware of that. When you set this up, you need to go ahead and cross multiply. So let's go and do that. So 3 times X gives you 3X. And then you have 5 times 5, 13. So 5 times 5, 513. Okay? Okay, so now when you go ahead and type this into the calculator, let's see what comes out. So 513 times 5 gives you 2,565. So 3x. So now you can go ahead and divide that by 3. X equals to 855. So there you go, 855 hamburgers. When you have a word problem, it always represents something. So always remember that. It always has a quantity that you're comparing. So that's ratios, and that's a proportion to solve the situation. Now you will have a few of these algebraic proportions to go and solve. So just a quick reminder: cross multiply. 3 times 15. Okay, gives you 45. And then here, when you have an x plus a value or a number, put the parentheses there so it helps you out. And so you have 2 times x plus 5. And then you can distribute. So now you have 2x plus 10 minus 10 on both sides. And then you have 2x equals to 35. Divided by 2. And then x equals to 17.5. So there you go. That's number 6. So just be careful when you're solving these. Okay. There's another one, a little bit similar. Just put your parentheses, and then when you cross multiply, you'll have 4 parentheses x minus 7, and then when you're doing the other way, you have 4 times 8. 4 times 8. Okay, so that'll be 32, and then you can go and distribute that on your own to solve for this missing part. I'm not going to do that part for you, but it should be taking the same way. 4 times the 1 gives you that 4. 4 times that negative 7 gives you a negative number here. Okay, so in this case, you're going to go ahead and distribute twice. Okay, so you'll have 5x plus 3 is equal to something else. And then so you have parentheses, cross multiply, 8 times x minus 3 in this case. Okay, and then you can solve it on your own to distribute. Now, when you work into something like this, where you have both of these exponents, these x values, where they're multiplying each other, you have exponents of 1. Okay, always remember, x times x gives you x squared. X squared times x to the power of 3 gives you x to the power of 5. These examples. So let's say we have 2x times, just a moment. Just a minute. Okay, there you go. Okay, so when you have something like this, your exponents are going to be multiplying. So x to the 2x squared. Let's say my fault. Let's say 2x to the power of 1 times 3x squared. Okay, so it'll be 3 times 2 in this case, which will be 6x. 1 plus 2 gives you 3. So it'll be 6x cubed here. So it's just some examples to go ahead and piggyback off of. So when you're doing these, you're multiplying 1x times 1x, which is going to be this situation. So you have x times x, which is equal to 3 times 27. So 3 times 27 gives you 81, and that gives you x squared. Okay? And then square root it. So x equals to 9. So that's what you have on that one. Okay? And you can solve that one on your own. The biggest problem here, I would suggest, is that you got to know where this symbol is located on your calculator to go and square root it. Now, there will be times where this does break into like -9 or +9, depending on what type of calculator you got. So either one of these answers is correct, but the default answer by the calculator would show you 9. Okay? So if you put 9, you'll be okay. Now, the next part is that you'll have these types of problems where they'll tell you solve for the similarity ratio, and they'll ask for what's the measure of it. Okay? So one thing that you have to be mindful of is that you have to use the highlighter to go and solve for which side is missing and what's the proper proportion for it. So I'll set them up, and then you can go and solve them on your own. So this one's saying find O. So given triangle JKL is similar to triangle MNO, you're asked to find MO. So I'm going to highlight what I know. So I know that I have to look for MO, which is right here. Has no value on it, so I'm going to put X because that's what we're always looking for. So MO. So that means MO is the same as JL. So that means this is what I got. So I'm going to put 9 is equal to X. In this case, it's my first triangle, and this is my second triangle. Okay, next one, I'm going to go ahead and use the single and double. Single and double. So I'm going to go ahead and write those down. So I have 3.6 is equal to my second triangle, which is going to be 18. So this is my second triangle, this is my first triangle. From here, you can go ahead and cross multiply, solve for x. So 3 times x, 3.6x is equal to 9 times 18, which is 162, which is 3.6x is equal to 162, divided by 3.6. So x is equal to something. So 162 divided by 3.6, and this gives you 45, okay? Now, when you solve class, you know that at the very end of it, what do you do with the x? You plug it in, okay? You plug it in. But what do you plug it into? You have to plug it back into what x was in the beginning, okay? So in this case, if MO is equal to x, replace it, that means 45 is equal to MO. So there you go, okay? Now, if you're looking for a similarity ratio, you pick one of the colors that you highlighted. So that means I'm going to go and pick out either 3.6 and 18 or 9 and my newly found value, which happens to be 45. So let's see. So I got 45 and I got 9. So that means I'm going to use 9 over 45. And that reduces down to, let's see, 1/5. Okay? Because remember, 9 divided by 9 gives you 1. 45 divided by 9 gives you 5. Okay? So there you go. That's 11 and 12. As long as you take these steps, you'll be okay. Now, what happens if you have a problem where, if you notice some of these don't have little tick marks on them anymore, you need to go ahead and use your similarity statement. So let's look at this one right here, okay? The decimal ones. So when you look at this, you have to know what you're looking for. So I know this is my second one. So SR, so I got SR right there, and that's going to match up with KL. So KL is right here. It says find LK, so I'm going to label this as X, okay? So when I go ahead and write this, it's going to say X is equal to 2.25. And this is my first, and this is my second shape. Now, when I look for the next one, I'm going to use what I'm given. I don't have much information on the right side. The one on the left has more information on it. But I'm going to use what I know. So that's going to be QR on the right. So that means I'm looking for QR, which is LM, which is 15. So when I create this, my first shape has 15, my second shape has 3.75. And then now you can cross multiply. So use the similarity statement, use the statement. Similarity statement, okay? Because if you don't use it, then it's going to be hard to set up the proportions. And then solve for x, and then if it's saying for OK, you want to go ahead and plug it back in. Plug it into LK, okay? So there you go. That's going to be 15. And a little bit part of 16, okay? So let's keep going down. A lot of these are a little bit similar. Okay. Now let's go back to this one. So 6 foot tall. Okay. So one thing here you have to go ahead and understand. Last problem is that Fred is 6 feet tall. He's measured his shadow to be 11.5 feet, and the building shadow is to be 138 feet. What is the height of the building? So Fred is 6 feet tall. So I'm going to go ahead and just label what I know. So the measure of his shadow of his the measure he measured his shadow to be 11.5 feet. So you have 11.5 feet. The building shadow is 138, and so what is the height? So it's going to be h. So if you kind of look at this problem, and if you go ahead and just know what's going on, this kind of looks like your proportion already. So we're going to go ahead and move it. So you have 6 over 11.5 is equal to h, and then 138. You can use that as x too. It doesn't matter as long as you have a value there, I mean a variable there. And then you can just go ahead and cross multiply. 11.5h is equal to 6 times 138. And then whatever you do at the very end, you want to go ahead and just divide the value that you find. Okay? So 6 times 138 is 828. 11.5h is equal to 828. So you just simply divide by 11.5 on both sides. And then h is equal to 72. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so that'll be 72 feet in this case. Alrighty, so that's what I'm going to be ending the video off of. Make sure you go and check out the other videos. As long as you follow the steps that I mentioned today in class, or I mentioned today in this video, then you should be able to find and you should be successful, okay? Alright, so just keep practicing, y'all. So tune into the next video.